Hello friends, it's Lex at LexReads, and today I'm vlogging and answering questions about The Hunger Games, which is one of my favorite books. This is the first book in my favorite book series. Technically, Catching Fire is my favorite, but what are you gonna do about it? Okay, let's do it. Vlog time. I will put the timestamp for when I sit down and do my book talk portion right here. But for now, vlog time.
Wow, so I just got some baller news. I haven't started reading yet because I'm the worst. But I just got notified that I received an ARC for Kate's book dates, new book that's coming out, The Anti-Virginity Pact, and I'm so excited, you guys. So excited. Listen, PETA has my entire heart, and I love him so much. But also, the fact that his dad is just like, I'll make sure your sister is eating, always just breaks my heart in the best way, because, what a good man, you know? God, I love this book so much. Alright, I'm 114 pages into The Hunger Games, which is almost a third of the way through. I'm at the part right before interviews, so they just got their training scores back. Katniss got an 11, Peeta got an 8. Oh my god, I love these characters so much. Katniss and Peeta, really wholeheartedly mean so much to me as characters, and I don't think I'm ever gonna find a character that matters to me quite as much as these two matter to me. I'll find characters that matter in different ways, but, these characters are so formative and, so important to me, and I love it so much, and it's so well written. It's so well written. It's so good. God, I can't wait to keep going, but it's 12:04, and I have school tomorrow, and a lot of stuff to do, so signing off for the night. Hello, it's Tuesday afternoon. Like I said last night, I am 30% into The Hunger Games. I'm 114 pages in, but I'm going to do a reading sprint real quick. So I'm going to set my timer for 1 hour, and I'm going to read as much as I can in that hour, and then I'm going to keep working on my homework. My favorite thing about rereading my favorite books is that, reading The Hunger Games feels like going home. Does that make sense? Every time I reread this book, I feel like I'm metaphorically being, wrapped in a cozy, comfy blanket by the fireplace in, a house that was built for me. Alrighty, my time is officially up. I'm on page 222. So I'm at the part where Katniss, ruins all of the careers, food and supply pile by setting off the mines. God, I adore Rue, and I adore Katniss. Listen, Katniss is so smart. I feel like people consistently just forget how intelligent she is. And she has such good survival instincts, even in those moments where, she's so over it, and she's like, they're gonna kill me, she's such a fighter, and she's so admirable, and she's such a badass, and I love her so much, and Rue dies soon, and I'm really upset about it. I think it's in the next chapter, maybe 2, but I think I'm a little over halfway done, so I think I'm going to be able to finish tonight, which is really exciting. Someday, I'm not going to cry. I've reread this book so many times, and I still cry every time I read it. And I feel like that's a testament to good writing, because, there are a lot of things that I can reread, and I'm pretty unbothered by. Eventually you become a little bit, numb to how much it's sad, but Rue's just so sweet. And she reminds Katniss so much of Prim. Oh my god, that the line right after Rue asks her to sing, and she's like, I haven't sung in a long time, but if it's Rue's last request. That hurts me. That hurts me inside. It's so good. Okay, so of all of the things that I could possibly be upset about in the Hunger Games movies, the thing that I'm the most upset about is the fact that they didn't use Here to Finish Me Off, Sweetheart, because, so fun fact, PETA's, like, low-key the love of my life. Like, I'm in love with Peeta Mellark. I love him so much. He's my favorite character. I think he's wonderful. I think he's interesting. I think he's complex. I think he's hilarious. But that line was what made me fall in love with him the first time I was reading it. I really, really liked him. And then Katniss is looking for him, and then from down below her, come here to finish me off, sweetheart. It's amazing. And the fact that it isn't in the movie is a travesty. And while we're talking about it, remember, we're madly in love, so feel free to kiss me anytime you want, is also just golden, and I love him. I love him. I love Peeta so much. And of course, how can you forget, for all I know, I could be killing you. Can you speed it up a little? He's amazing. How does anyone dislike him? I don't understand how people don't like this character. He's wonderful. Alrighty, y'all. I finished the Hunger Games. It is 8:35 p.m. I'm probably gonna start Catching Fire tonight.
Okay, so I live by the fact that this is one of the best books that's ever been written. And you can't change my mind. The characters, amazing. Amazing. The world, amazing. I love it. Okay, so I have found, this is on readinggroupguides.com. My 10th anniversary edition doesn't have questions in the back. It has an interview with Suzanne Collins, which is really cool, but not helpful for what we're doing specifically. So I've pulled up some questions, and we're going to answer them. Let's do it. Okay, I'm reading off the screen, which is why I look this way when I read them. How does Katniss feel about the country of Panem? Why does she need to make her face an indifferent mask and be careful what she says in public? So this government, it's really authoritarian. So there's not a whole lot of room for free thought. And anytime you say something that is anti-Panem, you run the risk of being beaten or killed, or your family being hurt, or you being taken to the Capitol and turned into an Avox, which is, when they cut your tongue out and you're like a servant to the state, basically. So Katniss, who is naturally pretty outspoken and, she just kind of has a little bit of an attitude, which we stan, honestly, but in a lot of circumstances it can, and sometimes does, get her in a lot of trouble. So she has to neutralize herself in order to protect, especially her family. She cares more about protecting her family than she does about protecting herself, but to protect her family and herself. Describe the relationships of Katniss with Gale, Prim, and her mother. How do these relationships define her personality? Ooh, that's a good question. Why does she say about Peeta, I feel like I owe him something and I hate owing people? How does her early encounter with Peeta affect their relationship after they are chosen as tributes? Okay, so Gale is her best friend. I think anyone who grows up with a best friend of a different gender has experienced this thing that happens where everyone just kind of like assumes you'll get married. My best friend when I was growing up, everyone always made jokes about how we were going to get married and we were blah, blah, blah. He's gay and I'm queer, so like, but there adds this like societal pressure that Katniss kind of is oblivious to for most of her. Like, she like logically recognizes that people think that, but she kind of just pushes it aside. But really, in a lot of ways, I see Gale as like a brother figure to her. He and her, they take care of each other. They have this mutual respect, but they give each other a lot of shit. they're best friends. They're best friends, and I think her relationship with Gale is the place where, at least pre-reaping, she's allowed to be the most herself, because it's technically, a lot of their interactions take place outside of Panem. They hunt together out in the wood. Gale is like her safe place before the game starts. So she has this association with Gale and comfort and freedom and safety. And I think that bleeds into the narrative of the 3 books, because how do you forget that? Especially when you're in this situation where all of a sudden, like, you can't be seen with him too much because, like, you're supposed to be in love with Peeta and everyone's going to assume you're also in love with Gale, and it's a whole thing. So, like, when she loses that connection in the Hunger Games, but then carrying on into Catching Fire and the rest of the series, she loses a big piece of herself. Her relationship with Prim, she's Prim's caretaker. She's Prim's older sister. The reason that she's so self-sufficient ties into both her mom and Prim, but the reason that she's so self-sufficient is because after her dad dies, she's the one that has to step up and take care of them. So that protective, self-sufficient, like, badass part of her personality, that comes from the hardships she faced in having to take care of Prim and her mother. She also sees Prim as this person worth protecting, but for a lot of reasons, not only because she's her little sister, but also because she knows that Prim is fundamentally, like, deep inside, like, a good person who is going to grow up and heal people and help people. And she always talks about how Prim has healing hands, like, she was born with it, just like her mother. And I think for those reasons, like, Katniss sees herself more as, like, if they're, like, a duality, like, if Prim is the light, helpful person, Katniss is the one who does the darker thing. She does the hunting, she takes care of the family, she quite literally takes Prim's place to do, like, the dirty work in the Hunger Games. Peeta. I feel like I owe him something, and I hate owing people. When you don't have anything, I feel like there would be a lot of immense pressure when you feel like you owe someone, but you don't have anything to give them. And then Peeta goes and drops this bomb, where he's like, well, I've been in love with you basically my whole life. And she's like, because what do you say to that, right? Like, I don't know what I would say to that. But she also has this association with Peeta with, like, new beginnings and hope. And once again, like, freedom. And so it creates this weird dichotomy in her brain where, like, on one hand, she, like, hates him because she feels like she owes him because he saved her life this time. And then on the other hand, she associates him with a lot of, like, positive, good things. And in the Hunger Games specifically, that causes a lot of problems, just in her brain, like, where she doesn't know how to relate and how to act around him, because she, like, knows that she should pretend to be in love with him because it'll get her more sponsors and that's their angle, but also she doesn't know if she's in love with him because that's not ever something she's, like, let herself worry about, because she doesn't want to get married and she doesn't want to have kids because she hates Panem, even though she doesn't like to say it out loud, like, she hates it there, and it's a whole thing. Her early encounters are kind of weird because they're, like, dancing around each other in a lot of ways. Why are the tributes given stylists and dressed so elaborately for the opening ceremony? Does the ceremony remind you of events in our world, past or present? Compare those ceremonies in real life with the one in the story. I'm not going to do the last part so much, but I think, well, they do that because there's this idea of, okay, how do I word this? There's this, like, reality television twist to something really horrific. It's basically like frickin' being shoved in the arena in, Rome, where they had to, like, fight the, like, gladiator arenas, but, like, also a reality show. And I think they do it mostly, I think it's twofold. I think they do it, one, to entertain the people in the Capitol, because the people in the Capitol are like, the society has created this place where these people are just kind of ditzy, and they don't have a lot of really good critical thinking skills, and they just, like, they like the flamboyancy and the beauty and the, oh, like, look at these strong young men and women who are going to, like, fight to the death. They're so brave, they're so wonderful, and it just, like, heightens that when they, turn them into a spectacle. And then the other one, I think it's a little bit dehumanizing for the people of the districts back home, like, to watch year after year after year, to watch your people dressed in these garbage mining get-ups before they have to go and fight to the death, and the likelihood of them surviving is so slim. So I think that's the whole deal. It reminds me a little bit of, like, Olympic opening ceremonies. It also kind of reminds me of, I don't watch The Bachelor, but at the beginning of The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, I guess it probably happens in both. I've only seen, like, a couple episodes of The Bachelor, so that's my entire knowledge of the show. But, in the first episode, when all of the, like, girls the women and/or the men come out, they, like, are, like, dressed to the nines, and they parade out, and the whole idea is to, like, be memorable. It reminds me of that. Moving on. When Peeta declares his love for Katniss in the interview, does he really mean it, or did Haymitch create the star-crossed lovers story? What does Haymitch mean when he says it's all a big show, it's all how you're perceived? Why do they need to impress sponsors? And what are the sponsors looking for when they're watching the games? Peeta means it. Peeta's not joking. I think... So Haymitch didn't fabricate it, but I think Haymitch encourages it. Peeta's like, well, I love her, and Haymitch is like, we can use that. And then when he says it to Katniss, he's not telling her you have to also be in love with him. He's telling her, girl, this is your best chance at surviving, so figure your shit out. Like, he gave you the best shot he could. Do what you will with it. The sponsors are looking for people to rally behind, and I think they rally behind people for different reasons. They rally behind the careers because their success rate is so high. They rally behind Katniss and Peeta because, well, first of all, Katniss has a rockin' training score, but also because they are these, like, it's the idea of these, like, young lovers, this Romeo and Juliet situation where, like, they know that it isn't going to work out, but they want to give them, like, the best chance that they can, is how I take that, my interpretation. Before the games start, Peeta tells Katniss, I want to die as myself. I don't want them to change me in there, turn me into some kind of monster that I'm not. What does this tell us about Peeta? What does he fear more than death? Is he able to stay true to himself during the games? Peeta is a soft, lovely boy with a soft, lovely heart. And I think basically what he's saying is just, he goes into the arena fully knowing that he's not going to live. Like, they have multiple conversations about that, where Peeta's like, if one of us is living, we both know it's not going to be me. And so he's made peace with his death, and in doing that has decided that since I'm not going to live, I don't want them to take the important parts of me, my compassion, my desire to help people, my love of beautiful things, like, all of those things. Like, he doesn't want the capital. He wants to die with his dignity, basically. He doesn't want to be turned into, they talk, I don't know, it's either in Hunger Games or Catching Fire where they talk about the boy, no, it's in Hunger Games, where they talk about the boy that, like, goes a little crazy and starts, like, eating the other tributes after they're dead. Like, he doesn't want to be remembered for like, all of his humanity being torn away. He wants to be remembered for who he is, which is a compassionate, like, humorous, loving soul. And I think as much as he can keep that, he does. I mean, he technically kills Foxface, but is Foxface his only actual kill? I think she might be. And that was an accident. Sure, he lies, but he lies to protect Katniss. Sure, he is with the career. Oh, no, he also kills the person at the beginning. But he does that to protect a person that he cares about. And while I'm not necessarily saying that that's, like, a great reason to kill someone, in the circumstance they're in, like, it's a believable and understandable reason to kill someone. So I think he succeeds. What makes Katniss and Rue trust each other to become partners? What does Katniss gain from this friendship besides companionship? Is Katniss and Rue's partnership formed for different reasons than the other groups? Yes, I think so, because the careers always pair up, because they know that they, as a group, can basically annihilate anyone. Katniss and Rue pair up because for some reason they have this pull to protect each other. And we know why that pull is there for Katniss. It's there for Katniss because she sees Rue and she sees Prim. Like, she sees Rue as this Prim-like figure, you know, this younger sister type that needs to be protected because fundamentally, like, she has a better heart and she's worth more than this, and if anyone wins, it deserves to be this poor little 12-year-old girl who's never hurt anyone in her damn life. Like, Katniss is like, this is basically my little sister. And I think, in turn, Rue knows that she can trust Katniss because she's seen Katniss as this big sister figure, and she trusts her, and they, like, help each other before they're allies. But then once they're allies, they form this, like, genuine, real friendship where the groups like the careers, it's basically like a business arrangement. They don't care about protecting each other, not really. They care about killing everyone else so that it's easier to get to the end. Their alliance is an ends to a mean. How do you say that? The ends to a means to an end. Their alliance is a means to an end. Katniss and Rue's is genuinely because they like each other. When does Katniss first realize Peeta does care for her and is trying to keep her alive? When does she realize her own feelings for him? Did Haymitch think all along he could keep them alive by stressing the love story? Are they actually in love? I think Katniss realizes that Peeta really genuinely is actually interested in her when he's telling her about how he knew he loved her in the cave. You know, he's talking about, like, when she was a little girl at the assembly, and then she stands up and sings, and everything goes quiet, and he was like, oh no, and they were, like, 6 or something. And then he just, like, never let go of that, and I think she, like, realizes that he remembers her too much for it to be, like, a joke, you know, for it to be an act. She's like, this is a little too real, man. When does she realize her own feelings for him? Hot take, I don't think she does in the Hunger Games. I don't even know if she really does in Catching Fire. I don't think she genuinely, wholeheartedly understands her feelings for him until late in Mockingjay. In this one, she realizes that there's something special about him and that she really cares about him. But it's not love in the I'm in love with you sense in the Hunger Games. Nah. Did Haymitch think he could keep them alive? I think Haymitch basically puts his money on Katniss, which is fair. As previously said, Peeta has significantly less of a shot at winning objectively than Katniss does, so it makes sense that he does that. And by pulling that angle, yeah, I think Haymitch thinks it's his best shot at keeping one of them alive. And also, I would agree that he's probably right. Are they actually in love? Peeta, I don't know if it's fair to say that Peeta is in love with her, like at the start of the Hunger Games, because he doesn't really know her very well. I think by the time Catching Fire opens, I think he does really actually very much love her. He's in love with her. In the Hunger Games, I think he's still like on the precipice. He like has had a crush on her forever. He respects her. He adores her. I don't know if it's love at the beginning. By the end of this book, because he didn't know her, by the end of this book, he knows Katniss and he like understands Katniss. And at that point, I think he opens himself up like really actively to be legitimately in love with her. And then he's heartbroken when he's like, oh, that you were pretending, because I wasn't pretending, and that would hurt a little bit. But for the rest of the series, well, for Catching Fire and as much as Mockingjay as he's coherently not brainwashed, I think he is truly in love with Katniss. Okay, this question is dark, and if I talk about it, I'm going to be talking for like 8 years, but this is about Karl Marx and the Communist Manifesto. And it has like a quote from the Communist Manifesto and then says, discuss how this statement applies to society and government of Pan Am. It's basically about class struggle. There's a lot of class struggle. I could make an entire video about class struggle in the Hunger Games. Ooh, maybe I will. Maybe I'll start crafting that. So we're going to call that here 5 out of 5 stars, best book ever. If you haven't reread it or read it in the first place, give it a read. So good. That's all I have for you guys. I will see you tomorrow. Goodbye.